Hello everybody, welcome back to the Chuuni clan. We are not dressed up in any meaningful way. I've heard some comments talking about like, it's weird that some cross-dressers are on the videos. We'll do more of the stuff when it's like not us like all dressed up in something every now and then. And to this morning is your lucky day, you're more into content like that. But today we're going to be talking about none other than Booster Set 03 of Shadowverse Evolve, Flame of Laevateinn.
Yeah, if you're a big fan of Shadowverse Flame, this is going to be a great concept for you. It's something that really kind of broke ground on them not going a traditional adaptation of going to Shadowverse set by set by set.
So just like a quick history recap. You know, we had BP0, Booster Set 1, Acknowledgements with the starter decks. That basically covers basics and classic. Then we had Reign of Bahamut for 2, which is Rage of Bahamut and like a couple other things. Then Uma Musume, which is like completely
different. This one's like the exclusive.
And, you know, we also play a digital game. Do you remember that we did have stuff based on Flame of Laevateinn?
Yeah, but that was a really recent set. So what's interesting about that is how they're not going to do adaptation.
So we're not doing like a one-to-one where like the card's like the card for the digital game, because by the point we reached that point in the digital game, the game like got completely power crept.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see like the cards that you're used to from the digital game doing what they did. It'll be like definitely lower powered here. But with that out of the way, we're going to go over to our first loser. It's actually not one of the classes nor neutral. It's actually...
so in the Japan side, the Shadowverse TCG and JP basically had trial decks where it was a pretty good use to have people get more into the game, much easier, especially around this set where it's a bit thoroughly established. I remember kind of the pricing points were a bit tricky for a good amount of people. So having like these trial decks give good ease of use, despite having already trial decks that a lot of people sell in the English side. I think that this is honestly a big loser because you can build specific archetypes with these new trial decks. And as someone who wants to play Ghost, for example, in Abysscraft, I have to buy it all from the booster, which is a bit tricky. I kind of understand a little bit why they do this, but it's honestly a big loss because I have to now either pull it or buy it off of like singles and such.
So there were two major perks. So one, you know, Reign of Bahamut introduced a card for each of the classes that previews the Flame of Laevateinn new archetypes. So you have the Light Tenure Trial deck, which is all about armed, you know, Laevateinn Dragon, etc. Arm your guys. You have Ichki, it's based around the new, you know, Cosmic Fang and those cute little beast guys to like do some more additional bouncing for like some life gain, I believe, or something like that.
True, and it's trying to pull like, from what I know about history in Shadowverse Flame, the deck is like kind of like an OTK deck, like you just push your opponents on a specific time.
And then you have the Subaru Abysscraft trial deck, which as Rikka alluded to is all about,
it's really a big bummer.
Ghost being a real archetype, where instead of just Ghost being, we exist and do damage and disappear.
But I still think that that's just an unfortunate loss. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
I'm just saying the second perk, the character leaders, you now got actually pull them for the booster segment instead of them being guaranteed. So those who are going, oh, easy, I get my Light, Ichki or Subaru leader, no, I get lucky.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate thing. This also kind of plays into the last set with Uma Musume, where there was only one leader per case. So this is going to be a bit trickier to try to go farm some of those leaders, especially if you don't, like, say, spend like 700 plus for a case. So
for sure. So now we move on to going down the actual classes. I guess we should go in order, right? So Forestcraft.
I definitely say that this is a easy winner. We didn't do a video on the Uma Musume winners or losers, but it got really good stuff that made Forestcraft jump the tier that kind of needed to after a kind of disappointing set 2.
So Marvelous Sunday, very good recursion engine to combine with the likes of Nature's Guidance from earlier sets. On top of that, you can push additional damage with the likes of Silent Suzuka. She has Storm already, and you can evolve her for 2 to really put your opponent in a bind. Like, that thing could be a powerful tempo swing, it's not even funny. And that combined with the likes of Roaster to generate Thornburst tokens, Crystalia Kia that make Crystalia big. Crystalia E-Tokens to really getting early board presence and damage. And you end it all with Silver Bolt. That's just nasty.
Yeah, this is probably a video I'll be doing in the future, or probably has already been uploaded now, about how Forestcraft literally became an elite tier once and earlier. But the reason why it is notable here is because I've talked about this so many times. The JP Championship, who by the player named as Stay, won with this specific variant, and the reason why this is successful is because of the Fairy Tale engine utilization. The people utilize these cards mainly because this get use of Fairy Tale counter, and then you can kind of have that main cell pings that they can't really answer unless they like burn off stuff. I would say that it is a bit tedious more so in the neutral pool, because with some stuff having like, you know, markers per se, you have to engage them and they can be easily attacked, and then the markers fizzles out. But I honestly think it's pretty good within Forestcraft, because you get great QOL, and mainly that comes in stuff like Tweedledum Tweedledee, which you can play a lot of those really small cost engines, which is mostly the cost ones. It's like one of the best pieces that they have. And heck, you can even have the good use of, I would say, the good use for the Blossom Wolf. This is one of the things that we're talking about. There's also a good amount of other stuff like, yeah, Tweedledum Tweedledee. There's also Floral Breeze. It kind of pairs up well with Gerbera Bear, something like that. Yeah. You have a lot of good like extra bounce. I think the only really unfortunate part would be the legendary that came out for
Beauty and the Beast.
No, actually no, not Beauty and the Beast. It's the other one. Fang? Yeah, Cosmic Fang. I honestly am not huge with the card, but I'll see how it works in testing.
It's heavily nerfed from its digital game version, we know that much.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you do have Beauty and the Beast if you want to go into the Fairy Tale engine, yeah. But the championship build kind of worked off the Silverbolt usage. However, I'm curious to see how English kind of plays out for that.
Question, do you think like people consider, say, Flower Breeze as a viable recursion card? It's a one drop that bounces the card at game one.
Yeah. I talked about that too. It's a nice idea because it's kind of similar idea as Nature's Guidance, because but the thing is, you get the draw card. This one you get an extra life, and sometimes the extra life kind of helps you get over the line. So that's pretty much on.
You feel like a few like control options. You want to play the Fairy Tale engine, or you want to play.
Yeah.
It's kind of like prevent your opponent from attacking with a follow for the next turn.
Yeah. So another winner from this set would be Swordcraft.
Oh yeah.
I think this might be.
Possibly a best deck in format contender during the Laevateinn format.
Yeah.
The hero engine, imagine what the Leonidas mid-range decks could do, but like 2 turns faster.
Yeah.
And not requiring all that much setup.
Yeah, I really like the idea of stuff like Heroic Entry and Mock Knight. Yeah. These are very good cards that can help make a free ad instead of not spending a lot of play point economy, and you could use that for mainly kind of the stuff that you have currently right now.
You have so much consistency, you could apply early board pressure. The joke is you play against a hero sword, by the time you're at turn 5, you're probably like 7 defense already.
Yeah. And then I really think that Sword doesn't really benefit thoroughly off of the Fairy Tale engine, but more so on this specific archetype. I like it. This is why
if I'm not mistaken, during Laevateinn format in Japan and Southeast Asia, wasn't hero like kind of like dominating?
Yeah, because you can do stuff like a heroic entry to go add it onto the field
and I can see English like abuse even more, because English tends to have a more, versus Japan. I feel we have a higher motivation to play decks like just go face.
Yeah, this is a really good news.
It's very good.
If you love top decking too, and like kind of like a similar idea as Gold Paladin and Card 5 Vanguard, this is a pretty good entry for you.
It's a very good. If you love aggro, Hero Sword is your pick.
Yeah. So we'll get to a loser now in this. We kind of snaked on this, but I would say a loser would be Dragoncraft, and the reason why Dragoncraft kind of got third a week is because the armed archetype is not really as shining as most people thought, at least in the Japanese side.
Right. So the biggest problem with armed dragon, at least with just Laevateinn specifically, when we get to say BPO4 resolutions, we'll talk more about arm comes back, but for different reasons. But for now, the armed engine is overall very clunky. It requires specific cards to be played in a specific order to get the ideal board setup. On top of that, Laevateinn Dragon is nerfed in the fact that, unlike say in the digital game where we could go into like the flexible modes of Laevateinn Dragon, we're only allowed up to 3 of any of his versions total.
Yeah.
So it can't be like, oh, we just build a deck around Laevateinn Dragon and call it a day.
Yeah, it's really tricky to go build off of your evolved deck.
Dragon cannot get bored.
Because bear in mind, you're still playing stuff like Forte, and you're still playing a good amount of things that came from the previous sets. But I mean, this is an unfortunate coming from Dragon. Like last set, you did get Oguri Cap and Riko Kashimoto. However, I think like the coming sets, at least from what I've observed, it doesn't look like Dragon is going to.
It makes sense with, again, we look at the game from the Japanese context, but the game's made in Japan first, then imported to us.
Yeah.
Dragon was hyper dominant.
Exactly.
In the early days of the game.
And this is around where the hit actually applies.
So we had it one set before during Umamusume. And the Japanese don't get until like around Flame of Laevateinn.
Yeah, I will say just one thing though, just to kind of give some light to Dragoncraft mains, is at least Knuckle Dragon will still be notably playable.
Draconeer is basically, if you set up correctly, you could have Dragon Warrior but better.
Yeah,
I get a lot of decks moving forward. A lot of Dragon decks moving forward will find a way to play like a mini ARM engine to facilitate Draconeer because having Witchburg and Dragon Warrior, a surefire bullet on legs. That's also a 4/4.
Yeah. So, and then I guess we'll give it to a transition to the last loser. I kind of agree with this because I feel like this is a pretty solid archetype, but I feel like we've kind of got to a point where Abysscraft is starting to get some small identity crisis. This is what I felt in that. I feel like there's just too many archetypes that's starting to form, but there's kind of a reason with this. If you all remember that Abysscraft is a combination of both Bloodcraft and Shadowcraft. The thing is that there's a lot of different avenues you can go. However, I would say this did not really showcase improvement, but kind of elevating one archetype, which is kind of being iffy.
So we knew a lot of people, especially in English as opposed to Japanese, during Advent of Genesis, they were abusing the aggro cards in Abysscraft, Skeleton Soldier, Ambling Wraith, and Phantom Howl, cards like that just like get a lot of easy storm damage in Raise Recall, etc. Bahamut releases, we get like some Soul Dealer, Azazel to start the basic skeleton of a more control archetype. Now Cerberus from Advent of Genesis kind of goes in both because making Mimi and Coco tokens is too powerful apparently. But now we enter Flame of Laevateinn, Ghosts, Masquerade Ghost tokens that make. They're kind of like Meijiro Dober. They're just these 3-cost wars of getting away your opponent trying to finish you with storm damage.
And at the end of the day, I like the concept too. However, is it going to be potentially like Elite? Not really.
More, if I'm not mistaken, the Masquerade Ghosts, unlike in the digital game, they disappear at the end of the opponent's turn. So they don't. So it's kind of like Meijiro Dober and Umamusume, where if you don't control another Meijiro follower with the same name, she busts back to your hand, so she gets to attack with her 3 attack stat line.
Yeah.
The Masquerade Ghosts have that problem too.
Yeah. Overall, it's unfortunate for Abyss. I feel like though,
because I know in the digital game, Masquerade Ghosts got to stay on the board forever.
Yeah. But I feel like this is kind of like a filler set more so for Abysscraft, but they're gonna get more stuff in like the next coming sets.
But,
we'll talk about that in the future.
Cosmic Mythos, but it's not time for Cosmic Mythos. We gotta talk about Flame of Laevateinn.
Yeah, and then I guess the last winner overall, this is not specifically the card pool itself, but Runecraft finally gets another option in chess. Now, we've heard back and forth opinions, and I'm excited to do a video of like the status of Runecraft right now. Like, I would say that though chess has been on a lot of people's dockets. They like a good use of a nice combo deck that's kind of not like forest or such. And this is a really fun area that a lot of people could be enjoying. Especially how they build it.
You just try to overwhelm your opponent with all your different chess pieces.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Dirt Rune gets some nice quality of life. Wizardess of Oz to be able to, once she just automatically makes a maxi statement and asks once you stack right then and there on Fanfare.
Yeah.
And then she has a quick activate, not very common. We saw this with only cards like Sun Oracle Pascal, also a Dirt support card from Bahamut. where she could Earthright 1 to make your next spell cost 4 less. Pretty powerful.
Yeah, and you have a lot of good stretches stuff. I believe Wishbolt, I don't know if it costs 4 or costs 5.
3.
It's cost 3. Oh, that's even better. You can make that free, and I believe you get some nice profit off it.
Bulk something for 5 damage, and you have an evolution, you have an evolved forward, I believe, you draw one?
Yeah, I think so. And what's really cool too about that is you have a great stretch of utilizing the runes card pool. I know Spell Chain is not going to be as good within the set. It's going to be better in like the next future sets, but overall, I think it's
Darcy gets a little bit more quality of life bump with Priestess of Oz.
Yeah, especially it's been Rune. I think it's been a tough like a few sets for Rune. Like sure you got. Musume got a lot of different stuff for Runecraft, but they just didn't really sync it well.
The problem is you have to invest very heavily into the Musume followers to get maximum benefit. Like yes, Zango Rob was amazing.
Yeah.
But
and then
it requires you to play cards like Naruto Top Rogue, Agnes Tachyon.
Yeah. Daiwa Scarlet ad. It's a good It's a good searcher spell ad, but you're making a completely new engine.
You're clogging up your deck with about like 15 or so Musume cards is the problem.
Yeah. But overall, I think this is a pretty good time for Rune players. I also really like that we're getting exclusive collab because in JP, they actually had Salome from Niji Sanji JP. This time we are not getting that because it kind of makes sense, but we're getting an exclusive collab, which I'm so excited that they're doing, which is Millie Parfait, which is one of my favorites actually.
We already started preview cards. They look beautiful.
The tokens too. I wish I could use that as an actual bell ringer.
Actually, I made some stuff like lower rarity too, so that some people can like.
I actually really like that.
They're not chase cards versus like we had in JP.
Yeah, I really like that idea. This is especially good heading into the next set of the Code Geass collab. If we're putting in very lower rarities, these are great for collectors. This is very good for people who like the IP.
It's a very good collector's product. As well.
So when we saw it too, is that Millie Parfait actually has 2 leaders. One is gold foil. It's a similar idea as the starter decks versus the booster, how you get like the gold foil leaders. I like that idea, and I really don't think it's going to be like super big. I feel like there will still be a jump, but it's not going to be as bad as we think.
It will not be a big change, we hope.
Yeah, we hope.
Now we have to move on to the last class, Havencraft.
Yeah, I would actually say more of this towards being a neutral, and the ironic part is that it mostly works around neutrals, and the reason why is because we have a deck that kind of plays very. I would say different than most classes.
Yes, you get cards like Princess Snow White, you get Diamond Master. Like they're not bad cards, but that's not why we're playing Havencraft moving forward. No.
So there's a specific cards which is Humpty Dumpty and Explosion. These cards are thoroughly different than the main Haven strategies. However, you are still playing notable Haven cards. I don't know specifically which ones to, but I mean, look at the pool of it. Right. You have Acolyte's Light. You have like Blackened Scripture, which can still be good. Priest of the Cudgel, good banishers. On top of the ad of Humpty Dumpty that could just unevolve, wipe the board.
Right. So there's a second part to all this. Havencraft has access to some of the best card draw in the game. Sacred Plea, it could unironically play Path to Purgatory still. You have Prism Priestess that's able to toolbox for these draw amulets. And you can even, if I'm not mistaken, you can even play the Will the Overtake from Musume in Havencraft.
I didn't consider that. That's pretty cool.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Because Humpty Dumpty and Explosion, they like eat up, you're basically meant to like give up your entire hand. So Havencraft is going to rely on top decking at some point to get his hand back up, and then eventually find enough explosions to end the game outright due to just having all those Humpty Dumptys, all those explosions in the cemetery. Havencraft just basically becomes a deck where you buy time to set up all your Humpty Dumptys. Humpty Dumptys is basically like conflagration, deal 5 damage to like everything. Nuke your hand to do so.
And bear in mind we have a lot of good amount of wards in this set, or in the game right now.
Yeah.
So as that's
as you keep stressing when we talk about cards like Silver Bolt, burn damage is stupid. Explosion is very much the epitome of stupid.
Yeah.
Rikka, I believe, like unironically calls this deck like anti-Shadowverse.
Yeah, because it's like you're doing stuff that are not typical like play, swing,
Right.
etc. And this doesn't really have a specific play style. Is the interesting thing?
I think a big three comparison, if I compare to anything from the big three, it's like playing Chamber and Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't care about what the opponent does. You just try to take the rule book, grind it to a million pieces, put it through a hookah and like smoke it out, and just go disregard like respectable Shadowverse. Just go. All I want to do is cause chaos. Or it's kind of one of those like it's like that. It kind of just says, well. You're let's say like you're in like a Formula One race.
Yeah.
You won because you decided to crash your vehicle into everyone because their cars are decommissioned due to you like intentionally crashing into them. You win by default.
Yeah.
It's that kind of deck.
I will say one last thing to conclude on our point. Alice is a really good card in this specific archetype, mainly because if you, as said, with top decking usage, this is one of the best cards that can be used. I think Alice gets used a lot in a lot of different decks, and we see it even in Sword. But for top deck specifically, this works super well in Haven's Factor.
Right. And on top of that, the Fairy Tale engine, it's kind of one of those like Fairy Tale engine is kind of one of those like sweeper products where with the neutral specifically, especially with Alice, the Fairy Tale engine that neutral brings. It's not particularly powerful on debut, but as more cards get added to the card pool, those Fairy Tale cards you get in from Laevateinn will see your investment into them will pay off in dividends. You will have very powerful decks. Fairy Tale Haven control will become a thing. Again, Havencraft.
Yeah.
So if you are looking forward to Fairy Tale centric strategies, pick those up now before it's too late.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much to thoroughly conclude it. I like the use of fairy tales is completely new. I know in set 7, I believe, actually, I think it's set 8 actually. It's one of the sets.
Yeah.
I think it's set 8 more so because
it should be 8.
because it's like supports mostly for like Omens and the fairy tale side. That was set 7. I have to recheck, but it's 8. Okay, cool. Just making sure. But on that, this is a interesting thorough induction. The reason why I'm not like necessarily like big on this set, but more so I'm so glad we're seeing more quality of life is because we kind of see like the status of Shadowverse evolve right now.
Right.
I think Musume like kind of had that main status quo breaking, but I think that the main quality of life kind of changed up a lot of stuff with the set.
The same with the games before Flame of Laevateinn. While we have clearly dominant decks like Dragoncraft, Swordcraft, and Musume and Forestcraft, the problem is a lot of that pre-Flame of Laevateinn meta was depending on who could draw their better cards before their opponent and who can draw the outs before the opponent can establish a strong foothold where the game becomes untakeable at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas with Flame of Laevateinn, the game evolves, no pun intended, to the point where we're more deliberate about our decisions. Decision making plays a much bigger factor from I'm saying, it's not one of those, I drew my better cards first to get.
Yeah. You have to kind of balance it out, and that's why the deck building is pretty solid in this set.
Deck building becomes like much better for like many more of the classes now than before. You're not relying on can I draw X before Y happens.
Yeah.
You're not, none of this anymore. I mean, it's still there because it's the nature of a trading card game, but that factor becomes drastically reduced with what Flame of Laevateinn brings to the table in its card design.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much how we're going to thoroughly conclude it. Pretty interesting set. I don't think it's like one of the main shineouts. However, it is very good quality of life for kind of what we kind of need to see.
Right. It's a good early investment for things that build upon it in later expansions.
Yeah.
So pick them up now before it's too late when we bring up these cards again in future winners and losers videos. So we hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Continue to embrace the darkness, and we'll see you all over in the next video. Bye-bye.